Ladies and gentlemen, I have a bit of an admission to make over here. I hate Aemeath. But it's not for the reasons that you think. I don't hate her because of her story, her design, her guns, or any of that shit. No, fucker. I hate her because the devs love her, and their love for her has ruined Wuthering Waves' endgame. Let's go ahead and talk about that. It's time for us to have a bit of a discussion today about Wuthering Waves' endgame and what I consider to be one of the biggest problems in Wuthering Waves' endgame. If I were to just comment on Wuwa's endgame as a whole, I would dare say that it's been, honestly, on the up and up. Considering the fact that we have End State Matrix over here, a game mode that's been updated for Doubled Pawns Matrix and is considered the hardest endgame mode in the game, it's got some pretty good offerings, at least when it comes to the buff side. And by the buff side, I'm talking about enhancements like this, where there's one that's a general one focused on negative statuses, another on echo skills, and then of course the last one on tomb break. And this gives pretty much any team in the game at least something to go for, right, when it comes to buffing their teams as they approach this type of content. But one of the realizations that I feel like a lot of players have had about one endgame mode in particular, well, let's just be honest here, Whimpering Wastes, is that their offerings of buffs have really fallen to the wayside when it comes to general use. And it's been something that's become a lot more common, at least in the past couple of resets. Because if I were to go ahead and open up the token overview over here for this most current reset that occurred within like the last 24 hours, one thing is kind of fucking obvious. These buffs, these gold tokens, which are considered to be the best ones available in the game mode, right? These buffs are extremely specific and geared towards specific units. This one, for example, right, is focused on Hiyuki because it gives you glacial damage, and you can see the bonus over here. Enemies take 200% more total glacial chafe damage. Then you got this buff over here, where you can clearly see by the buffs to spectro damage, fusion damage, and then of course Tune Break, Tune Strain, Tune Rupture. This is made for Luke, Herson, and Aemeath. And then when you look at this buff, total arrow damage increased by 35%, and then enemies take 30% more total echo skill damage. Well, guess what, guys? That one is just made for Sigrika, but I guess thankfully to a degree, like other arrow characters are able to use it, and arrow characters are some of the most plentiful in the game. This is the most general use token out of all the gold ones. And if you're not arrow and you don't have an arrow DPS on your team, it's kind of just like, go fuck yourself. And so that is the display that we have over here, ladies and gentlemen. That is the offerings on the gold token side. And what I wanted to talk about today was kind of just like the degradation, at least in my opinion, of the gold token design in this game mode, and how it's just gotten worse and worse over the past couple of updates, as well as making the actual enemy selection worse at the same time, specifically with, well, the 3 cost units that appear in Infinite Torrents. So let's just go ahead, let's go on a bit of a history lesson and see where everything really fell apart. So if I were to just go ahead and go over to this website over here, Encore MOE, this is like typically a leaks website. We're not looking at any leaks though. We're only looking at past WeWa resets with the information that we're seeing over here. This is season 16. This is the current reset, right? And we can clearly see the same exact tokens that we saw in game. If we go back to season 15 though, this is what we have available. The same Sigrika token over here that focuses on buffing her and buffing arrow. The same token that we just saw over here with the Frostlands that focuses on Tune Rupture and Tune Strain. And then guess what this one is? You might recognize it from a prior video. This one buffs Fusion Burst. That's 2 tokens tailored around 1 unit. And that 1 unit that is tailored around, ladies and gentlemen, is this one. I don't understand what sort of universe, when it comes to Kuro games, what their priorities are, why they would do something like this, where a character has 2 tokens tailored to them that are basically unusable for virtually any other member on the roster other than this guy. 2 tokens. And they're both dedicated to her, and this guy can only use one of the other ones. Is that really a good allocation, ladies and gentlemen, of the gold token slot? Is that really a good choice when we only get 3 gold tokens every new reset? No, It's stupid. It's dumb. And it's a direct downgrade from what we had in Whimpering Wastes before. Because guess what we had in some of the previous seasons, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, would you take a look at this? The same exact double Aemeath shill tokens, right? We just established how much these two shill her. But then we had this one called the Falling Star That Tears Fate Apart. And what this did was it buffed the Burning Waves buff that you would get after dealing a certain amount of damage to enemies. Your resonators would all deal more damage too, and then that Burning Wave state would become permanent. This was essentially the general use token because it just buffs everybody to a certain degree. There's no team in the game that cannot activate this. And people liked that this thing existed because that essentially meant, right, no matter what team they ran, they would be able to get some sort of additional way to get more power in the game mode. But we haven't seen this in 2 whole fucking resets, ladies and gentlemen. We have not seen this in 2 resets. And resets in Whimpering Wastes take 30 days each. So it's going to be, we had the 30 days over here. We're like on day 31 or 32. And so we have another 30 days of this reset, and we will have not seen this thing at all. But you want to know what we've seen a lot of? Remember this token? It showed up in 3 resets in a row. Are you serious? In what fucking universe should one character get a token that shills them for 90 days in a row? That's how long it will be. 90 days of the Aemeath shill token, and then they remove the general use case one to bring this fucking shit back. Are we serious? We removed this one, but then we're gonna keep this one for 3 fucking resets? 90 days? 2 patches? Because guess how long patches are in this game, guys? 42 days. They're 42 days, so it's actually more than 2 patches. But what if I look at the reset right before this one? What do we see over here? Another token that shills Tomb Break and Toon Rupture, which Aemeath is a DPS for. So this is actually 120 days of Toon Rupture shilling. Guys, 120 days in a row of Toon Rupture shilling in the Whimpering Wastes resets. That is 1/3 of the fucking year that this unit is gonna be buffed in Whimpering Wastes. 120 fucking days of Aemeath shilling. There are other characters on the roster. There are other characters that have ran. And the fact that we are sacrificing one of the 3 slots over here, ladies and gentlemen, to run this bastardized shit for the 3rd time in a fucking row for 120 days total. It almost feels like malpractice at this point. Why? What is there? Why are we doing this? Why does one character, the Sentinel Resonator, all of this stuff, bro, people have not been able to pull her for like the longest period of time. She was only on ban for 21 days, but she gonna ban shill for 120? I understand the idea, right, that we're allowed to have favorite characters as developers. I understand the idea over here that there's allowed to be favoritism and stuff like that, right? Maybe everybody actually did just pull Aemeath. She's got 100% ownership rate, and that's the reason for why she's being shilled so much, so it's actually player friendly. But bro, I'm sure people want to actually play other teams. I'm sure people want the ability to have the general use case token back and stuff like this. And the fact that with your limited 3 slots, you've been shilling one archetype for the greater for over 1/3 of the fucking year, bro, that's just ridiculous. And I think we've gotten to a bit of an impasse when it comes to this situation. Why are there only 3 gold tokens? Why are there only 3 of them? At this point, you should just have something like 4 every reset and then make the 4th one something that's at least slightly comparable, right, to a general use case one. Just have 4, and then you can do all the shilling you fucking want. But when you're at the point where you're sacrificing one of the slots to remove the general token so that you can shill one fucking unit for 120 days, what are we doing here? Bro, she doesn't even need this shit. Bro, she hasn't needed this shit. You could just use the fucking purple. You could just use the purple Toon Rupture token, bro. Sorry, that's the Toon Stray one. You could just use the fucking purple Toon Rupture token, bro, and get like a 2.25k. You haven't even needed this shit. Bro, people have had like 90 days to build their Aemeath. If they don't have it built by now and they need a gold token to clear, bro, fuck them. I'm sorry, fuck them. If they need 120 days to build the character, fuck them. They're just not even playing the game at this point. They're probably not even in the endgame mode yet. Why does this need to be here for 3 months in a row? And why does Toon Rupture as a whole need to be shilled for 4 months in a row? Because like I said before, when it comes to the record, it was already shilled here. You want to know the last time, bro, we didn't have Toon Rupture shilling? None of this shit? Bro, this was in version 2.8. Last year, 2025, was the last time that we didn't have Toon Rupture shilled to some degree. During the Chisa update, during Honami City. And since 2026 started, bro, it's been Rupture shilling here, then Rupture shilling with this godforsaken. I am tired of seeing this, bro. I swear to God, if I see this next reset, I'm going to fucking crash out. Because that will be month fucking 5 that Aemeath has been shilled. Month 5 in a row. Bro, is this even necessary anymore? I'm kind of already crashing out right now because I thought it was impressive enough that we had 2. Now we're going for fucking 3? Are you serious, bro? Because Kuro's even breaking their own fucking rules here when it comes to this shit. You want to know how I know they're breaking their own rules? They don't even have a Spectro Frazzle Zoni damage amp token here, bro. This one maybe should have said enemies take 100% more Spectro Frazzle damage or something. And you want to know who's on banner right now? Bro, they don't even have a token designed for the 2 other units that are in 3.2 Phase 2. They don't even have them, bro. Maybe this just means Kuro knows nobody's pulling this fucking unit and they're just giving up on her, which, if that's the case, AW, I guess. They just know nobody's pulling this fucking character. And so they didn't even bother even trying. They didn't bother even trying when it comes to the token selection. But you could at least make a mention of it somewhere, bro. The neglect is undeniable for sure, and it is a little bit based. But I'm gonna have to put myself in a Zoni player's shoes for a second. What the fuck is this? Instead of making a Spectro Frazzle-oriented token for the unit that's on banner, you're gonna run the Aemeath token for a 3rd time in a row? When she's not even available? Bro, what are we doing here? Who's in charge of this shit? It doesn't make any sense anymore. I can officially say I have never seen one unit just dominate the shilling ever before. And I'm not going ahead and saying she's like a dog shit character, she's awful, she doesn't deserve it or any of that. But wasn't 3 months already enough? Why did we have to go for month number 4? Wasn't 3 months of Rupture shilling enough? Why are we on month number 4 of it? Is it necessary? No. Like I said before, she could still clear on the purple token. And instead, you're rerunning the thing that can only be used on 2 units in the game. Luke and Aemeath, and you rerun that shit 3 fucking times. Why? How? What's the purpose here? Why do we need to do this? And I guess the one comparison we can make, right, is why don't I just go ahead and see how much was Cardathea Shield? I kind of want to take a look at that. How much was Cardathea Shield? Oh my gosh. Wait. Is this even real? 12, 11, 10. Yeah, let me get 9 too. I do believe that this one over here. Oh yeah, a question with many answers. This one was the Cardathea Shield buff. But guess what this one is? You could use this with Chisa and just run any team. This was more of like a Chisa shill with a little bit of a Cardathea spin on top of it. You could also run Phoebe DPS as well, I guess, if you really wanted, and Spectral Rover and get some benefit out of this. But you can see over here, It just says, inflicted with negative statuses. Ignore 20% of the target's defense. Recover additional ember, which gets you into burning waste faster. And then deal more damage. And then raise negative status limits. Bro. They ran this one a lot. But guess what they also ran it alongside? General use case tokens too. Boom. Stuff like that. And at the very least, it was usable on more than 2 units in the game. That's the big one. It was usable on more than 2 units in the game. And it didn't have any retarded attribute specifications like this shit. Because it only says 40% Spectre and 40% Fusion over here. It would be like this shit saying, Resonators deal 50% more arrow damage. Because clearly it was made for Cardathea. But they designed it in a way where at least it opens up other fucking teams. This shit, use Luke or Aemeath or go fuck yourself. And so they went from rerunning a more general use case token that was meant to shill Cardathea. They went from rerunning a general use case one 3 times in a row to rerunning the most hyper-specific one that's in the fucking game. What a joke. And whoever's responsible for this, bro, like, I feel like there's a different team designing Whimpering Wastes that's, like, disconnected from the rest of the fucking game. That's what it fucking feels like, because we don't see bullshit like this in the TOA. We don't see bullshit like this in End State Matrix. But Whimpering Wastes as a whole is just where we see like all of this stuff just looking like trash. I feel like each of the endgame modes, they have their own team. And the one that runs Whimpering Wastes is literally the worst out of all the teams at Kuro Games. Because what is this other than fucking, like, developer malpractice, bro? And then when you combine this with the fact, right, that the enemies that we're seeing in these resets, right, are some of the most diseased we've ever seen in the fucking history of the game. Bro, I need to show you this shit, bro. Is this the most recent one? Nah, I gotta go back to the most recent one, bro. The current one that we're on right now. Bro, how are you putting these mining reindeer and these violet feathered herons in again? Bro, these things are designed to prance around the battlefield, get ungrouped, and be the most disastrous enemies to fight we've ever seen. You are A, removing the general use case tokens while also introducing the most diseased enemies we've seen in a long fucking time. Worse than Chop Chops? Yeah, they're worse than Chop Chops, bro. I don't know how they managed to find an enemy that's worse than Chop Chops, because Chop Chops at least spawn together. These violet feathered herons are practicing social distancing. They spawn like 2 meters apart from each other, and your attacks will hit like 2 of them and they'll miss the 3rd. It's unreal. I have never actually, like, it's ridiculous who designed this. And you'll notice, right, that this introduction of these diseased fucking enemies happened in the last reset. They added these in the past reset. Bro, if you go to Season 14 over here, right? Wait, where is it? If you go to Season 14 over here, bro, they're not there. Bro, they're not there. They did have the violet feathered heron, but it was these ones spawned closer together and weren't as annoying, right? No, these violet feathered herons down here, they were fine. They weren't a big deal. But these ones that they introduced in Season 14 or Season 15 alongside these mining reindeer, cancer. They're both cancer. They're both ridiculous. And they make some of the older units literally feel unplayable because unless you break these guys with a massive hit the second they spawn, bro, they start prancing around. It's crazy. You actually can't use older members of the roster against these guys because they're actually designed in a way where it's like, if you don't deal burst damage to them immediately to break them, go fuck yourself. And they do that in Season 15. And guess what they did here too? Remove the general use case token and add in only hyper-specific shield ones. And then again, they did that in this reset too. No general use case token. And then the most diseased 3 costs we've ever seen in the reset. It feels like they're designing the game mode to like not be fun for players. And they're designing the game mode to feel like one of the most unfun character checks I've ever seen. And it's gotten to the point where I don't think people actively even want to play this game mode anymore because it's like difficult in a way where it's like, no, it's not really a challenge of how well you're playing. It's a challenge of how lucky were you on your crit? And the second challenge is, do you own Frolova and Sigrika? Great. If you do, if you have these characters, you're good. You're chilling. It is the biggest roster check that I feel like I've ever seen in the game. Because if you just have some of like the good Weewa teams, bro, you're just chilling. You don't need to do anything. You just go in, roll your face on the keyboard with Frolova, or you build like the Augusta Premium team and use her on side 1, and then you're just chilling. And there are so many units that are just bad in this game mode because of like the enemy design, the massive number of like the massive amount of AoE that you need, the fact that lighter mobs like these ones have the weight of like a fucking feather, and like half the units in the game ungroup them. Like Lupa, good fucking god, bro. You use her ultimate on Lupa and half the fucking wave just goes flying everywhere. It's a chore at this point. And they've made it so unfun. And they've also removed your ability to play other teams by killing the general tokens at the same time and then also introducing cancerous enemies. I don't know. It feels mismanaged. It feels like a team that's separated from all the other endgames. Nobody knows what's going on here anymore. So I'm kind of just at the point where we need to make like a public, like a PSA over here, just talking about this feels like the red-headed stepchild of Wuthering Waves endgames, and it's being managed by a ding-dong. Bro, do better. Do better. Add 4 tokens, make 1 general, remove cancerous enemies, and like increase the weight of the small mobs so half the units in the game don't ungroup them just by doing a regular fucking rotation. It's very easy fixes. And I don't know. Ban Frolova. Fuck it. Fuck it. Say she's busy in the land beyond or some shit. I don't fucking know. Say she's on vacation. Go ban Frolova for a game for a day or something. Because clearly you over-designed this unit to fuck everything in the game mode when she's clearing it to Havoc resistance. It is what it is. But right now, Wiwa is without a doubt in the worst fucking state that it's ever been. And it's kind of like a joke that the last reset that we've had that introduced these tokens fixed absolutely nothing and just made the issue worse by running this Hate Aemeath token for the 3rd goddamn time in a row. 90 days of this shit, bro. Put in something else.